I was 10 minutes late to the movie theater, stuck in the pouring rain and unable to get a ride. I quickly apologized to my boyfriend, Liam Walker. He impatiently said, "What's the point of apologizing?" I froze. Every time I apologized, he never forgave me. I'd pulled 3 all-nighters working nonstop, and forgot to snag concert tickets for him. He coldly pulled his hand away from mine. "What's the point of apologizing? You can't even handle a simple task." I accidentally stained his favorite white shirt, and he flew into a rage. "What's the point of apologizing? This is my favorite shirt." But when his intern, Chloe Davis, spilled coffee and ruined his proposal, he didn't get angry. Instead, he wiped her tears. "You don't need to apologize. It hurts me to see you cry." Watching him get angry now, I finally let go of our 7-year relationship. I was tired. From now on, I wouldn't apologize anymore. I was drenched, rain trickling from my hair onto the carpet. Liam didn't even glance at me. He walked straight to the VIP lounge. His intern, Chloe Davis, was sitting there. She held 2 steaming cups of coffee in her hands. Seeing Liam, she immediately broke into a sweet smile, then nervously peered past him. "Liam, isn't Alice here yet? Should I not have come to drop off these files? Am I interrupting something?" Her voice, not far away, reached my ears perfectly. Liam naturally took the coffee. "She's late. Someone with no sense of time doesn't deserve to be on a date. But the movie's about to start. Since you're here, take this ticket and watch it with me." Liam's tone was flat, as if he were talking about the most ordinary thing. I froze. That wasn't just any movie ticket. To qualify for this exclusive limited-time premiere, I'd pulled 3 all-nighters, doing the entire marketing and publicity campaign for the organizers for free. All because Liam had casually mentioned, "I really wish I could see it on the big screen just once." I used to think this movie would be a milestone in our 7-year relationship. But now he had casually handed my hard work over to an intern he'd only had for 3 months. I took a deep breath, choking back the bitterness in my throat. Squelching in my rain-soaked heels, I walked step by step towards them. Hearing my footsteps, Liam turned sharply. When he saw it was me, his brows furrowed instantly. He instinctively shielded Chloe behind him. His eyes were filled with undisguised defensiveness and disgust. "Alice Linwood, if you dare make a scene here, we're over." "Alice, please don't misunderstand. I just came to drop off some urgent files." Chloe cowered behind him, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. I didn't cry, nor did I question him. I simply took the 2 tickets from my bag and handed them over. Liam was stunned. He looked at my expressionless eyes, his frown deepening. "What game are you playing now?" "Nothing." I slipped the tickets into his coat pocket, my voice as soft as the wind. "Liam Walker, enjoy the movie." With that, I didn't hesitate for a second. I turned and walked out of the cinema. Until the glass doors closed behind me, I could still feel his incredulous gaze. He probably couldn't fathom it. The Alice Linwood who loved him so much she lost herself. Why today, there wasn't even an apology after the fact. Outside, the heavy rain continued. I didn't carry an umbrella, letting the icy rain pour over me. My body, exhausted from 3 days of nonstop work, was racked with painful stomach cramps. As I passed a flooded intersection, a delivery scooter ran a red light and skidded violently. The handlebars slammed hard into my side. I was thrown through the air, crashing hard onto the asphalt road. Excruciating pain swept through my entire body. The delivery guy was terrified and repeatedly apologized. I was in too much pain to speak, only able to tremble and wave my hand, signaling him to go. Rainwater mixed with mud seeped into my wounds, making me shiver uncontrollably. I lay in a puddle, my vision blurred. Instinctively, I fumbled for my phone and dialed the PIN number. 7 years. It was my reflex. When in danger, when wronged, Liam was the first person I'd call. The phone rang for a long time. Just as it was about to go to voicemail, it connected. "Liam, I was hit by a car." "Alice Linwood, haven't you caused enough trouble?" Liam's voice was low, filled with barely suppressed anger. "Did you time this perfectly to ruin the mood? Do you have any idea the movie just got to the most touching part?" Chloe was crying because it was so moving. "Do you seriously have to use this pathetic stunt to guilt-trip me right now?" I opened my mouth. Rainwater poured into my mouth, bitter and acrid. The severe pain in my side made it almost impossible for me to make a sound. But I could still faintly hear the end credits rolling on the big screen from his end of the call. That was the Easter egg I'd shamelessly begged the organizers to add, just to get the tickets. At the very end of the acknowledgments, there would be a small line of text. "To Liam Walker, our 7th year. May you always swim free like a fish in the deep blue sea. Alice." I had imagined that when that line appeared, I'd be leaning on his shoulder, listening to him tell me he loved me. Instead, he was sitting in that very seat, with another girl by his side. He didn't even have the patience to glance at the screen, only caring about wiping away someone else's tears. "Speak up. Are you mute?" Liam's patience completely ran out. I'm warning you one last time. Drop the spoiled princess act. When I get home, I expect you to apologize to Chloe. You really scared her today. The call was mercilessly cut. I looked at the black screen and suddenly laughed. A raw, gut-wrenching sound. Tears mixing with the rain as they streamed down my face. It pulled at my wounds, making me gasp from the pain, but I couldn't stop. It felt like a ball of cotton was lodged in my throat. I painfully dragged myself out of the muddy water, limping back home. But the Alice Linwood who always carefully tried to please him, she had died in that downpour. Pushing open the door, the house was silent. I groped my way into the bathroom in the dark. The person in the mirror was disheveled and pathetic. The bruise on my side was swollen and purple, and the slightest movement sent a sharp, stabbing pain through me. I found the first aid kit, and trembling, I pressed an iodine swab to my knee. The keypad lock clicked open at the entrance, followed by Liam's deliberately lowered, gentle voice. Watch your step. You can sleep here tonight. I'll find someone to fix the leak in your dorm tomorrow once the rain stops. But Alice will be angry if she sees me. Chloe's voice was timid. What right does she have to be angry? Liam sneered. There's no way I'd let you stay alone in an apartment with no power. The overhead living room light flared on, filling the room with blinding white light. Liam walked in, one arm around Chloe, the other carrying her duffel bag. He turned his head and saw me, slumped on the bathroom floor. The curve of his lips instantly vanished. His gaze swept over the bloody swab, his eyes filled with disgust. Alice Linwood, what kind of stunt is this now? He walked over, towering above me. I wondered why you hung up so fast. Turns out you were cooking up some grand scheme at home. You dabbed on some antiseptic, made a huge mess, and you think that's going to make me feel sorry for you? Antiseptic. The heavy rain outside had washed away the blood on my body. Seeing my silence, Liam grabbed my arm and forcefully pulled me up. His hand clamped down hard on my bruised side. A jolt of excruciating pain shot through my brain. My legs gave out, and I collapsed back onto the floor. Ah! Chloe flinched back in fear. Liam abruptly let go, as if touching me for another second would contaminate him. Alice Linwood, haven't you made enough of a scene? Chloe's been startled and got wet from the rain. Do you have to give her grief right now? I was covered in cold sweat, trembling from the pain. He clearly saw that I was drenched, but he only felt pity for Chloe getting wet. I'm not making a scene. Clutching the doorframe, I shakily pulled myself up, my voice hoarse. I just accidentally fell. Liam paused for a moment. Perhaps my lifeless gaze made him uneasy. Good. Go change the sheets in the master bedroom. Chloe has a fever. She'll sleep in there tonight. You can sleep in the guest room. That sentence, like a dull knife, severed our last remaining connection. The master bedroom contained the bed I'd chosen, the custom-embroidered pillows with my name, all my personal belongings. Now he wanted me to give it to another woman. That's my room. I looked at him. This is my apartment. Liam pointed to the front door. If you feel so wronged, then get out now. Don't stand there bothering me. Chloe tugged at his sleeve, her eyes brimming with tears. Liam, I can just sleep on the couch. Don't mind her. She just doesn't know her place. Liam squeezed her hand reassuringly. A sweet, metallic taste filled my throat. I didn't cry nor did I argue. I turned, dragging my aching leg, and walked into the master bedroom. From behind me, Liam let out a cold snort. See, if you'd just listened earlier, you wouldn't have to make such a fuss. I pulled out the black suitcase from under the bed. I didn't change the sheets, didn't tidy the room. I only took my documents, a change of clothes, and my work laptop. 7 years of my youth, it weighed so little. A small suitcase couldn't even fill it. When I walked out dragging the suitcase, Liam was pouring Chloe a glass of water. Seeing the suitcase, his pupils contracted sharply. Then he let out a sneering laugh. What? Can't sleep in the master, so you're playing the runaway game? He walked towards me, blocking my path. Alice Linwood, you tried that 3 years ago. Do you think I'll chase after you and beg you to come back? He pointed to the stormy rain outside. If you've got the guts, then get out today. If you step foot out that door, even if you beg on your knees, I won't let you step foot in this apartment again. My fingers gripping the handle were white, and my legs were so sore I could barely stand. Okay. Without a second's hesitation, I walked past him and pulled open the front door. I don't know how long I walked before my phone vibrated in my pocket. The screen lit up. It was a text from Liam. I canceled your joint credit card. If you don't have money for a hotel, stop being dramatic and come back to apologize. I looked at the words on the screen and gave a stiff, humorless smile. That card was for buying our future home. For 7 years, I'd faithfully deposited my entire salary into it every month. In his eyes, it was all his money. He could cut off my livelihood at any time, just to force me to yield. I didn't reply. I immediately blocked his number, pulled out the SIM card, and tossed it into the gutter by the road. Along with it went 7 years of my youth, utterly wasted. It was 2 in the morning. Gritting my teeth, half dead, I checked into the emergency room at City Hospital 2. The ER doctor held up my x-ray, his brows furrowed in a tight knot. A comminuted fracture of the right scaphoid bone, and severe soft tissue contusion in your lower back. Why did you wait so long to come in for your hand? The doctor glanced at my medical record. You're a concept artist, aren't you? Your finger joints show long-term strain from holding a pen. You need surgery for steel pins immediately, or else this hand won't even be able to lift heavy objects in the future, let alone hold a pen. I was drenched, sitting on the cold plastic chair, my mind blank. I was a concept artist. My right hand was my life. Doctor, please schedule the surgery. My voice was horribly hoarse. Go pay the fees. A $20,000 deposit. I took the paper and walked with difficulty to the payment window. I searched all my pockets and found only an old payroll card, not linked to Liam. Balance, $1,300. This month, to get those 2 exclusive movie tickets for Liam, I'd used up all my savings, even overdrafting my food money for next month. I clutched that thin bank card tightly, suddenly feeling despair. I pulled out my phone, wanting to ask someone for money. Scrolling through my contact list, I realized how pathetically barren my life was. To accommodate Liam's schedule, I had canceled all my social engagements and outings. My closest friend, Chloe Davis. She was currently lying in my master bedroom, sleeping in my bed. At 27 years old, I was homeless, penniless, and nearly an invalid. Are you going to pay or not? There are others waiting behind you. The cashier impatiently tapped on the glass. I stiffly stepped aside. Leaning against the pale hospital wall, I slowly slid down, squatting on the floor. I buried my face in my knees, a broken laugh escaping my throat. I trembled with laughter, tears splashing onto the muddy floor. It was too ridiculous. Alice Linwood, you truly live like a joke. Just as I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe, the harsh fluorescent light overhead was suddenly blocked by a shadow. Alice. The voice was familiar, yet filled with an undisguised tremble of panic and concern. I slowly lifted my head. Ethan Reed stood before me, breathless. He must have just come from a business function, but his hair was wet with rain. I was just in the neighborhood for a project, and I saw someone who looked a lot like you walking in the rain. He crouched down, his gaze falling on my right wrist and my blood-stained knees. His eyes immediately reddened. What have you done to yourself? I looked at him, opened my mouth, but no sound came out. The nerves that had been taut all night. Upon hearing that long-lost concern, they completely snapped. My vision went black, and I lost consciousness. In the last second before I passed out, I faintly heard Ethan's furious roar. Doctor, help her. Meanwhile, New York, our old apartment. Liam Walker stood by the floor-to-ceiling window. Looking at the overwhelming downpour outside, he impatiently tugged at his tie. Half an hour. Alice Linwood hadn't cried and knocked on the door in the hallway as usual, nor had she sent any begging texts. Liam. Chloe Davis, wearing Alice's silk pajamas, walked over timidly. Alice went out so late. Will she be okay? Maybe you should call and check. What could happen? She has no money, and I canceled that joint credit card. Liam snorted, his voice certain. Don't worry about her. The rain's so heavy outside, she'll come crawling back, crying and begging me to open the door, in less than half an hour. He turned and walked towards the couch. His gaze suddenly caught something on the table, tucked under a glass. It was the velvet ring box he'd bought for his proposal next month. And next to the box, a set of keys lay quietly. Alice Linwood's apartment keys. Liam's heart suddenly, inexplicably, skipped a beat. The smell of antiseptic was the first thing that drifted into Alice Linwood's consciousness, sharp and clinical, bringing with it a dull, throbbing ache that seemed to pulse from her right wrist straight to her temple. She opened her eyes slowly. The ceiling was a stark, sterile white, illuminated by the pale morning light filtering through a half-drawn curtain. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The memory of the cold, heavy rain, the violent impact of the scooter, and the wet asphalt came rushing back, making her breath hitch. Alice, you're awake. The voice was low, laced with a gravelly fatigue, yet instantly warm. Alice turned her head slightly. Ethan Reed was sitting in a chair beside her bed. His usually immaculate charcoal suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened and draped over the armrest, and his eyes were bloodshot. He looked as if he hadn't slept a wink, yet the moment he saw her eyes open, a wave of profound relief washed over his face. Ethan. Her voice was barely a whisper, her throat dry and raspy. He immediately reached for a small paper cup of warm water on the bedside table, inserting a straw and gently holding it to her lips. Don't try to talk too much. Drink some water first. Alice took a few sips, the warmth soothing the raw irritation in her throat. He looked down at herself. Her right arm was elevated on a pillow, encased in a heavy plaster cast that extended past her elbow. Her left hand was hooked to an for drip, slowly ticking away. The doctor said the surgery was successful, Ethan said, his voice quiet as he set the cup down. He carefully avoided touching her injured arm, but his hand hovered nearby, as if desperately wanting to offer comfort. They had to insert 3 steel pins to stabilize the scaphoid bone. The soft tissue damage in your lower back is severe, but with rest it will heal. You're going to be okay. Alice. Alice stared at the cast. A comminuted fracture. To a concept artist, a hand was not just a limb. It was the bridge between her soul and the canvas. For 7 years she had bent over her tablet, ignoring the swelling in her joints, all to support Liam's dreams, to fund his studio, to make sure he never had to worry about finances while he built his architectural empire. And now her hand was broken. The expenses. Alice murmured, her eyes dimming. I don't have enough on my payroll card. Ethan, I will write you a promissory note. As soon as I can work, I will pay you back every cent. Ethan's hand froze. He looked at her, his brow furrowing with a mixture of intense sorrow and a sudden sharp anger. Not at her, but at the sheer absurdity of her words. Alice, he said, his voice trembling slightly, do you really think I care about the money? He leaned in, his gaze locking onto hers. We've known each other since university. You were the most brilliant designer in our department. You could have gone to Paris, to Milan, to the top studios in the world. Instead you shrank yourself. You turned into a ghost, living in Liam Walker's shadow, letting him drain you until you have nothing left. And now lying in a hospital bed with a shattered hand, the first thing you do is apologize and promise to pay me back. He took a deep breath, trying to control the crack in his voice. I don't want your money, Alice. I want you to stop apologizing for existing. Alice looked at him, a sudden, heavy silence falling over the room. For 7 years, Liam had drilled it into her head that she was a burden. If she was late, she was inconsiderate. If she forgot something, she was useless. If she cried, she was dramatic. Apologizing had become her survival mechanism, a shield she used to protect herself from his coldness. But Ethan was looking at her, as if she were something precious that had been needlessly shattered. I'm sorry, she whispered instinctively. Ethan let out a soft, defeated laugh, though his eyes were warm. See, you did it again. Let's make a deal. From now on, no more apologies. If you feel like saying I'm sorry, say thank you instead. Alice looked at the cast on her arm, then at Ethan's tired, sincere face. For the first time in a very long time, a tiny, fragile spark of warmth flared in her chest. Thank you, Ethan, she said softly. He smiled, the tension finally leaving his shoulders. You're welcome. Now, rest. I've already arranged for a private room, and I'll have my assistant bring over some light food. You don't have to worry about a single thing. At the same time across the city, the rain had finally stopped, leaving the streets of New York slick and gleaming under the pale morning sun. Liam Walker stood in the kitchen of his spacious apartment, holding an empty mug. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Usually by 8 a.m., the scent of freshly brewed coffee and toasted sourdough would fill the air. Alice would be quietly moving around, setting out his ironed suit, organizing his briefcase, and gently reminding him of his schedule for the day. But today the kitchen was cold. On the stove, a pot of burnt soup from the previous night sat congealed, a greasy film covering its surface. Chloe Davis had tried to make him dinner to show her appreciation, but she had ended up burning the soup and splashing oil all over the high-end marble backsplash. Liam had told her it was fine, that she didn't need to worry about it. But, looking at the messy kitchen now, a faint, inexplicable irritation flared in his chest. Liam? Chloe stepped out of the guest bedroom, rubbing her eyes. She was wearing one of Alice's oversized silk pajamas. The delicate fabric, which looked elegant and reserved on Alice, looked loose and slightly disheveled on Chloe. Has Alice still not come back? Chloe asked, her voice carrying a hint of timid worry. I feel so bad. If I hadn't stayed here, she wouldn't have run off in the middle of the night. It's all my fault. It has nothing to do with you, Liam said coldly, his eyes turning away from the messy stove. She's just throwing another one of her tantrums. She thinks by running away, I'll go chasing after her. She's done this before. 3 years ago, after a massive argument where Liam had forgotten their anniversary and spent the night at a business dinner, Alice had packed a small bag and stayed at a local hotel for a night. Liam hadn't called her once. By the second afternoon, she had returned on her own, eyes swollen, holding a freshly baked pie, apologizing for her immature behavior. Liam was convinced this time would be no different. He pulled out his phone and dialed Alice's number. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Please check the number and try again. Liam's brows furrowed. He tried again, only to receive the same automated message. Disconnected? He muttered, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. She actually went and changed her number? How childish. Did she block you? Chloe asked, peering over his shoulder. No, she probably just deactivated the SIM card to get a reaction, Liam scoffed, slipping his phone back into his pocket. Let her play her games. When she runs out of money and realizes she can't even afford her daily coffee, she'll come crawling back. I canceled the joint card. She has no other sources of income. He truly believed this. In his mind, Alice was entirely dependent on him. He forgot that the joint card was funded primarily by her freelance design contracts, which she had faithfully deposited into their future home fund every single month. Because her name was secondary on the account, he had always treated it as his personal leverage. Just then Liam's phone rang. It was the marketing director of the movie premiere event Alice had worked for. Director Walker. The voice on the other end was enthusiastic. We've been trying to reach Ms. Linwood all morning, but her number seems to be disconnected. We wanted to express our deepest gratitude again. The promotional campaign she designed for the premiere has gone viral on social media. The sponsors are absolutely thrilled. Liam's posture straightened slightly. Ah yes, Alice did mention she was helping out. Helping out. Director Walker, she didn't just help out. She did the entire visual concept, the interactive posters, and the promotional booklet. She worked 72 hours straight in our office to ensure everything was perfect. We offered to pay her standard rate, but she refused, saying she only wanted those 2 VIP premiere tickets for you. The marketing director laughed. She really loves you, Director Walker. Oh, by the way, a senior scout from Summit Arts, the international creative agency, was at the premiere last night. They saw her portfolio and were absolutely blown away. They want to offer her a position as a lead creative consultant. Could you please ask her to check her email? They sent over a formal offer with a starting annual salary of $300,000. The phone call ended, but Liam stood frozen in the middle of the kitchen. 72 hours straight. A starting salary of $300,000. Alice had never told him any of this. She had only quietly handed him the tickets, her face pale, her eyes dark with exhaustion. And he had accused her of having no sense of time, and handed those hard-earned tickets to Chloe. A strange, hollow sensation began to bloom in Liam's chest. He looked at the velvet ring box on the entryway table, sitting quietly next to the set of keys Alice had left behind. For the first time, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered, what if she isn't coming back? 2 weeks passed in a blur of quiet, disciplined recovery. With Ethan's help, Alice relocated to a bright, sunlit apartment overlooking Central Park. It was owned by Ethan's family, but had remained empty for years. Ethan had hired a professional cleaning service, stocked the fridge with fresh, organic groceries, and even placed a beautiful drafting table by the window, bathed in natural light. It's too much, Ethan. Alice had protested on the day she was discharged. I can't accept this. You're not accepting a charity case, Alice, Ethan had replied, his tone firm, but incredibly gentle. You're accepting a workspace. My firm, Reed Architecture, has just entered the bidding war for the new Metropolis Center project. It's a multi-billion-dollar cultural landmark. We need a lead concept artist to design the visual narrative for our presentation. I want you. But my hand. Alice looked down at her cast, her heart sinking. You have a left hand, Ethan said, pulling a premium sketchpad and a soft charcoal pencil from his bag. He placed them in front of her. And more importantly, you have a brilliant mind. The hand is just a tool. We have time. Start slow. That afternoon, Alice sat by the window. The park below was green and vibrant, a stark contrast to the dark, suffocating apartment she had shared with Liam for 7 years. She picked up the pencil with her left hand. Her fingers felt clumsy, her grip awkward. She tried to draw a simple straight line, but her hand trembled, leaving a jagged, erratic mark on the pristine paper. Tears of frustration welled in her eyes. A heavy, suffocating wave of despair threatened to drown her. For years, her worth had been tied to her output, her precision, her perfection. Now, she couldn't even draw a line. Not bad for a beginner, a voice chuckled. Ethan walked into the room, carrying 2 cups of chamomile tea. He sat down opposite her, took a pencil in his left hand, he was right-handed, and aggressively drew a horribly misshapen circle on the paper. Look at that, Ethan said, admiring his terrible work. A perfect potato. I think my architectural license should be revoked immediately. Alice couldn't help but let out a small, watery laugh. That really is a terrible potato. See, we're starting from the same baseline. Ethan smiled, his eyes incredibly soft. Alice, your art was never about the precision of your lines. It was about the emotion, the depth, the story you tell. Let your left hand learn to speak. Take your time. I'll be right here. Over the next month, Alice lived a life she had never known before. She woke up to the sound of birds, not Liam's impatient demands. She ate nourishing meals that Ethan prepared or ordered for her. Every afternoon she went to physical therapy, gritting her teeth through the painful exercises to regain mobility in her right wrist. And every evening, she sat by the window, practicing with her left hand. Slowly, the shaky lines began to smooth out. The jagged edges became intentional, expressive strokes. Her left-hand drawings had a raw, emotional intensity that her previous, highly polished digital work had lacked. It was as if by breaking her physical habit, she had unlocked a deeper, more primal, creative force. One evening, as the sun set over the city, casting a golden glow across the room, Alice finished a sketch. It was a drawing of a figure emerging from a stormy sea, reaching toward a distant, warm lighthouse. Ethan stood behind her, looking at the piece in silence. It's breathtaking, he whispered, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. The warmth of his touch seeped through her shirt, steady and reassuring. This is going to be the cover of our Metropolis Center bid. The theme is resilience. You've captured it perfectly. Alice looked at the drawing, then up at Ethan. For the first time in 7 years, she didn't feel the need to say she was sorry it wasn't better. Thank you, Ethan, she said, her voice steady and full of life, for believing in me when I couldn't. While Alice's world was expanding, Liam's was rapidly collapsing. A month after Alice's departure, the Walker Architectural Studio was in chaos. Without Alice to manage his calendar, Liam had missed 2 crucial client dinners. The studio's invoices were a mess, and several key freelancers had quit because their payments were delayed. Liam, I'm so sorry, I didn't know this file was the final draft, Chloe cried. Standing in his office, her eyes red and tearful. She had accidentally deleted a highly complex CAD file for a luxury villa project, forcing the design team to start from scratch. Liam sat behind his desk, his head throbbing. Usually, when Chloe cried, he would feel a surge of protective instinct, wiping her tears and telling her everything was fine. But today, looking at her weeping face, all he felt was an overwhelming, suffocating exhaustion. Just go out and ask the IT department if they can recover it, Liam said, his voice flat, not looking at her. But you're not angry at me, right? Chloe sniffled, stepping closer. I felt so bad. I just wanted to help. Chloe, please. I have a headache, Liam interrupted, his tone sharper than he intended. Chloe flinched, her tears flowing faster as she turned and ran out of the office. Liam leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. If this had been Alice, the file would have been backed up in 3 different cloud locations. Alice never made these kinds of mistakes. Even when she was working 72 hours straight, she kept his life running like a perfectly oiled machine. And yet, he had treated her presence as a given, a default setting of his life that required no maintenance, no appreciation, and no respect. He pulled out his laptop and searched for the final credits of the movie premiere he had watched with Chloe. He had found a high-definition recording of the credits on a design forum. He scrolled all the way to the end, his heart pounding in his chest. The music swelled, and there, in a quiet, elegant frame at the very bottom of the screen, the dedication appeared. To Liam Walker, our 7th year. May you always swim free like a fish in the deep blue sea. Alice. Liam stared at the words. A memory flashed in his mind. 3 years ago, they had gone to an aquarium. Liam had stared at a large, vibrant school of blue tangs swimming effortlessly through the deep water, and casually murmured, I feel so suffocated by the studio sometimes. I wish I could just swim free, like a fish in the deep blue. He had forgotten he had ever said it. But Alice had remembered. She had carried that throwaway comment in her heart for 3 years, turning it into a beautiful, public declaration of love, exhausting herself to the point of collapse just to give him that moment of joy. And what had he done? He had called her a nuisance. He had accused her of staging a pathetic stunt to ruin his mood. Liam's hands began to shake. He suddenly remembered the phone call from that night. Liam, I was hit by a car. Her voice had been so weak, so breathless, punctuated by the sound of heavy rain, and a distant, frantic voice apologizing. And he had screamed at her. He had told her to stop her spoiled princess act and hang up. No. Liam whispered, cold sweat breaking out across his forehead. No, she was lying. She had to be lying. She was just trying to guilt-trip me. Unable to bear the suffocating weight in his chest, Liam grabbed his coat and he drove straight to City Hospital 2, the closest emergency room to the intersection where Alice had supposedly been hit. He stormed up to the reception desk, his face pale and desperate. "I need to check the medical records for Alice Linwood," he demanded, his voice shaking. "She was admitted here on the night of the heavy rain about a month ago." The receptionist looked at him, startled. "Sir, I cannot release patient records without authorization. I am her fiancé," Liam roared, his composure completely shattering. "Please, just check if she was here." Seeing his distressed state, a senior nurse walked over, checking the system. After a few tense moments, she looked up, her expression turning incredibly cold. "Alice Linwood, admitted at 2:15 a.m. on the night of the storm," the nurse read. From the screen, "Severe comminuted fracture of the right scaphoid bone. Extensive soft tissue contusions across her lower back and left leg. She had been walking in the rain for hours with a shattered wrist before she finally collapsed in our lobby." The nurse glared at Liam. She was accompanied by a Mr. Ethan Reed, who paid for her emergency surgery and oversaw her admission. "Are you the Liam she kept trying to call before she passed out?" Liam felt as if a physical blow had struck him in the chest. He stumbled back a step, the air completely leaving his lungs. Walking in the rain for hours with a shattered wrist. She kept trying to call him, and he had told her to get on her knees and apologize to Chloe. I didn't know." Liam stammered, his voice cracking, tears finally spilling over his eyelids. "I didn't know." "You didn't care," the nurse said flatly, turning her back on him. Liam stood in the middle of the bustling hospital lobby, surrounded by the smell of antiseptic, feeling a cold, hollow despair slowly wrap its claws around his throat. 6 months later, the Grand Conference Hall of the New York Municipal Bureau was packed with the city's top architectural and design firms. Today was the final presentation for the Metropolis Center project, a landmark bid that would define the career of whoever won it. Liam Walker sat at the presentation table for Walker Studio. He looked haggard. His eyes were hollow, his cheeks sunken, and he had lost a significant amount of weight. Over the past 5 months, his studio had lost 3 major clients, and his reputation had taken a severe hit. This project was his last lifeline. If he lost this bid, Walker Studio would face bankruptcy. "Liam, don't worry," Chloe whispered beside him, clutching her tablet. "Our design is perfect. We'll definitely win." Liam didn't even look at her. Over the past few months, his relationship with Chloe had deteriorated into a cold, transactional arrangement. The sweet, innocent intern had lost her luster the moment he realized her incompetence was actively dragging his life into the dirt. But he didn't have the energy to break it off. He was trapped in a prison of his own making. "Next up, read architecture," the moderator announced. The heavy double doors of the conference hall opened. A team of sleek, professional designers walked in, led by Ethan Reed. He looked commanding, dressed in a flawless bespoke navy suit, exuding an aura of calm, unshakable confidence. But Liam's eyes didn't linger on Ethan. They fell on the woman walking beside him, Alice Linwood. She wore a tailored cream-colored pantsuit that accentuated her elegant, slender frame. Her long hair, which she used to keep tied up in a messy bun while working, was cut into a sharp, sophisticated bob that framed her glowing face. Her eyes were bright, clear, and full of a quiet, powerful confidence. Her right wrist showed a faint, neat scar peeking out from her sleeve, but she held a digital tablet with effortless ease, her fingers moving naturally across the screen. Liam's breath hitched. He stood up instinctively, his chair scraping loudly against the polished floor, drawing looks from the surrounding tables. "Alice," he breathed, his voice barely audible, yet filled with an agonizing yearning. Alice's gaze swept across the room. She saw him. Her eyes rested on his face for a fraction of a second. There was no anger in them, no hatred, no resentment. There was only a profound, chilling indifference. It was the look one gave a stranger on a crowded subway. She turned her head back to Ethan, offering him a soft, encouraging smile as they took their places at the podium. "Good morning, members of the committee," Ethan began, his voice echoing clearly through the hall. "Today, Reed Architecture is proud to present our vision for the Metropolis Center. Our concept is built around a singular theme: resilience. The ability of a city and its people to rebuild, to grow stronger through adversity, and to find beauty in the scars of the past." The projector flickered to life. A series of stunning, hand-drawn digital concepts filled the massive screens. The art style was unlike anything the committee had ever seen. It was raw, deeply emotional, blending traditional charcoal textures with cutting-edge digital rendering. Each piece felt alive, telling a story of light breaking through darkness, of structure rising from ruin. The committee members leaned forward, murmurs of awe spreading through the room. The visual narrative and core concept of this project were designed by our creative director, Alice Linwood. Ethan announced, stepping aside to let Alice take the stage. Alice stepped up to the microphone. Her voice was steady, clear, and utterly captivating as she began to explain the design philosophy, detailing how the physical structures would interact with the natural light of the city to create spaces of healing and community. Liam stared at her, his heart breaking into 1,000 jagged pieces. This was the Alice he had met in university, the brilliant, radiant genius who could command a room with nothing but her ideas. For 7 years he had locked her in a dark room, forcing her to draw his blueprints, to iron his clothes, to erase her own name so his could shine brighter. She had never belonged in his shadow. She was meant to be the light. When Alice finished her presentation, the room remained silent for a beat before erupting into a thunderous round of applause. The committee members were nodding enthusiastically, their decision already written all over their faces. The bid was officially awarded to Reed Architecture. As the crowd began to disperse, Liam ignored his team, ignored Chloe's frantic calls, and ran out into the grand hallway, desperate to catch her. Alice, please. He caught up to them near the elevator bank. Ethan was standing beside Alice, holding her coat, his expression turning instantly cold and protective the moment he saw Liam approaching. Walker, Ethan said, his voice a low warning. Step back. Alice, I just need to talk to you. Please, just 5 minutes, Liam begged, completely ignoring Ethan. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, his hands trembling as he reached out toward her. I know everything now. I went to the hospital. I saw the records. I know about your hand. I know what I did. Alice looked at him quietly. She gently placed a hand on Ethan's arm, signaling that it was okay. Ethan hesitated, then stepped back slightly, though his eyes remained locked on Liam, ready to intervene at any second. What do you want to say, Liam? Alice asked. Her voice was incredibly calm, like a still lake. I'm sorry, Alice, Liam choked out, tears streaming down his face. He took a step closer, his voice cracking with a desperate, agonizing pain. I am so sorry. I was a monster. I was blind. I let my ego and my stress ruin the best thing that ever happened to me. Please, Alice, come back. We can start over. I'll fire Chloe. I'll give you half the studio. I'll buy the house we always talked about. I bought the ring, Alice. It's still on the table waiting for you. He reached out, trying to grab her hand, the hand with the scar on the wrist. But Alice calmly took a step back, folding her hands in front of her. She looked at him, her expression soft, almost pitying. Liam, she said quietly, do you remember what you used to say to me every time I apologized to you? Liam froze, his breath catching in his throat. You used to look at me with disgust, Alice continued, her voice steady and clear. And you would ask me, what's the point of apologizing? She smiled faintly, a gentle, sorrowful smile. I didn't understand it then. I thought you were just angry. But now, I finally understand what you meant. She looked down at her right wrist, tracing the neat, pale scar with her thumb. Some things, once broken, can never be mended. A shattered bone can be held together with steel pins, but it will never be the same. A heart that has been systematically crushed for 7 years cannot be healed by a late apology. So, Liam, what is the point of apologizing? It won't fix my hand. It won't bring back the 7 years I wasted. And it certainly won't make me love you again. Alice, please. Liam fell to his knees, his shoulders shaking violently as he wept, his pride completely shattered in front of the passing colleagues and competitors. Don't leave me like this, please. I'm not leaving you, Liam, Alice said softly, looking down at him one last time. I left you 6 months ago in the rain. The person standing in front of you now is a stranger. The elevator doors chimed and slid open. Ethan stepped forward, gently placing his hand on the small of Alice's back. He looked down at Liam with a quiet, dismissive pity, then guided Alice into the elevator. Alice didn't look back. As the doors slowly closed, blocking out the sight of Liam kneeling on the polished floor, weeping in his empty, ruined victory, Alice felt a sudden, profound lightness in her chest. The elevator climbed higher, toward the sunlit lobby and the bright, open sky of the city. She turned to Ethan, who was looking at her with a warmth that felt like home. Thank you, Ethan, she whispered, her voice carrying the strength of a woman who had finally found her way back to herself. For everything.